to Clean Science and Technology Q1 FY22 Investor Conference Call hosted by Axis Capital Limited. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Ankur Periwal from Axis Capital. Thank you, and over to you, Mr. Periwal.
Thank you, Neerav. Good evening, friends, and welcome to Clean Science and Technology Limited's Q1 FY22 conference call. The call will be initiated with a brief management discussion on the earnings performance and the overall company overview, followed by an interactive Q&A session. Management will be represented by Mr. Siddharth Sikchi, Whole-Time Director, and Mr. Prateek Bora, Chief Financial Officer. I'll hand it over to Siddharth now for his initial remarks, post which we'll open the forum for Q&A session. Over to you, Siddharth.
Thank you, Ankur. Thank you, Axis team. A very warm welcome, great evening to all the investors who are attending this call. Today is our maiden first call for the company, and in case of any issues or errors, please excuse us as we are also learning as we go along. I would first want to thank the entire investor community for showing such great confidence in us and getting us this higher subscription, which we had not anticipated, to be very honest. And we believe that going forward as well, we would be coming up with interesting, innovative chemical processes where we can create more and more values for our shareholders. Since it is our first maiden call, I'm sure there would be some new investors whom I would have not met or heard. So I would just give a very quick brief on the growth story of Clean Science and Technology. As the name goes, Clean Science, as you can imagine, is a company where we focus on innovating clean, green, innovative chemical processes. And we do this using catalytic chemistries. We are one of the very few companies who work on developing catalyst and then using it for our own commercial production. A catalyst, just for somebody to understand, a catalyst is also a chemical, but if it is made properly, selectively, it has an ability to selectively give you desired product, reduce byproducts, reduce side reactions, reduce effluents, and hence increases efficiencies in the processes, and thus you can see lower raw material costings. So the journey all began in the year 2006. The name was decided as Clean Science and Technology. The first plant came up in the year 2009, where we started commercial production of product called as MEHQ Guaiacol. The first company to have commercialized this technology on global platform. In 2011, second product came up called as paramethoxyacetophenone, again a very interesting catalytic process, only company doing this globally. 2014 came the third product, forward integration of our own MEHQ into BHA, and again catalytic process, only the second company globally doing this. 2018 we came up with a very innovative vapor phase anisole process, which is our own raw material, and again the only company to be doing this globally. And 2020 we started another product which is used for pharmaceutical intermediate called as DCC, dicyclohexyl carbodiimide. So this is a little brief of the company. As you can imagine, the company really focuses on R&D. We have a very solid team of 42 odd people working in 3 shifts, and the focus is all the processes which we have developed, all have been developed totally in-house in our own laboratories. Going forward, let me speak on the quarterly result of Q1 FY22. Clean Science Limited, I'm very pleased to announce that this has been our highest ever revenue for the quarter which we concluded in Q1 FY22. The revenues of Q1 FY22 stands at about 145 crores against 111 crore quarter one last year, so a 30% increase in year-on-year. The export revenue stand at 109 crores, whereas domestic stands at about 36 odd crore, showing a ratio of about 75-25. 75 export, 25 domestic. The company's EBITDA levels have been 71 crores as against 56 crores last year year-on-year, an increase of 27 odd %. The company has posted an EBITDA of closer to 50 odd % as against a flat 50% on year-on-year basis. Here I would like to highlight that despite steep increase in our key raw material prices, particularly phenol, where the prices increased by 70% over the last 1 year, the company Clean Science has still been able to post healthy margins. Profit before tax PBT levels increased to 72 crores as against 57 crores Q1 FY21, so a healthy growth of 26%. So the net profit improved to 55 crores against 42 crores last year, an increase of 30%. The company has a very strong balance sheet with no debt. I would like to highlight a little bit on our capex. So the company last financial year did a capex of approximately 90 odd crore. Quarter one we did a capex of about 30 odd crores. And throughout the year, the target is to do additional 70-75 odd crores, ranging to about 100-110 crores in this financial year, which would be one of the highest capex which we have done since the inception of the organization. As you can imagine, all the capex will again be done through internal accruals, as the company is cash rich. A little bit I would want to speak here on the facilities. So we commissioned, we already have 2 existing units, all are based out of Kurkumbh. A third unit has started where the first plant got commissioned in Q1 FY22, which is a vapor phase anisole plant. So here we have doubled our capacities of anisole, which will suffice our captive demand and also will be used for selling in global markets. So now, in short, we have 2 anisole vapor phase plants. Plant 13, what we call, is expected to commission in Q3, Q4 FY22. This would be in our performance chemicals and enhancing production levels of our existing product lines, and a new product will also be added. During this time, earlier we had an anisole liquid phase plant in Unit 1, which was making this liquid phase anisole. Today we are using that plant partly to make a product called as Veratrole, which finds application in agro and pharmaceutical industry. A little outlook I would like to give on the new expansions very briefly. As you can imagine, we are trying to get into the segments which we really like are performance chemical. We like intermediates for pharmaceuticals and agrochemicals. So over the next year or so, new products will come up in these segments. We see good demand for our existing products, except for 4-methoxyacetophenone, which goes into cosmetics. And as you can imagine, cosmetic industry is little down due to travel restrictions due to COVID. Company is always expanding towards newer segments, increasing customers' wallet share, and of course increasing or adding new product portfolio. And I think with this I would like to conclude my call, and I think if there is nothing, we can open up for Q&A.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. Okay. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Participants, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. The first question is from the line of Sanjay Jain from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
And conversation on a
Sanjay, sorry to interrupt you. Your voice is breaking. May I request you to
audible now?
little bit, sir.
Hi, Siddharth. Good evening.
Hi, Sangesh. Good evening.
Sanjay, once again your voice is breaking very badly. May I request you to join the queue once again or come?
No, can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay. Apologies for that. Okay. I got few questions, Siddharth. First, can you just talk about how has been the performance across category on a YOY basis for all the three segments we report, which is performance, pharmaceuticals and FMCG? That's my first question. And second question is on the... Sorry?
Can I answer one question at a time?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'll tell you, on YOY basis, see, performance chemical has always been the biggest segment for us. So say last year we did roughly 70%, this year we did roughly 72%. Okay. Pharmaceutical has been again similar 15-16%. FMCG has taken a small hit. So last year we did a 13% split in revenues, which is now about 11%. And the major reason for this is because of travel restrictions due to COVID. The product which goes into sunscreen has come down a little bit. So this has been more or less the product split compared to last year.
Thanks, that's helpful. Second question is on the gross profit margin and the phenol prices.
Yeah.
Have we been able to pass on all the inflation, or the margin we are maintaining through more of a efficiency drive within us, better product mix, or it's mix of all, and how much the pricing has been passed to the customers?
So see, it's simple. As I mentioned, the phenol prices increased by roughly 70-odd%, which is a steep increase. And as you can imagine, we were able to pass majority of the price to our customer, A. B, of course, there has been process improvement, process efficiencies improvement, but the majority has come by passing the price to our customers, since we don't have very long-term contracts. So we are able to pass these price increase to our customers.
Okay. So basically, can you just a little bit elaborate on our contract, how long it is, and it's more of a spot, or we have a pricing adjustment built in our contract?
So what happens is, Sanjayji, is there are two kinds of customers. See, as you can imagine, 35% of our revenues comes out of China, and again 30-35% comes out of India. So these markets are quarterly or a bi-monthly price fixed. Whereas some customers who are large in Europe are based on a 6-monthly or an annual contract. So it's a mix of both, but in our case, fortunately, the long-term contracts are not too much of our revenues. It is still more on bi-monthly or a quarterly fixed prices, and hence we are able to pass these price increase or decrease both ways to our customer.
Got it. I have one last question from my side. On the new product, so Q3, Q4 is when we should start expecting new addition in the performance chemical, and that should drive the incremental growth for us. Are we expecting any material growth from the new product this year, or the effect will be more visible from FY23 onwards?
So Q4 is where I anticipate that these production lines will be operational. Few are existing. There would be 2 new products which we'll also add. One is out of performance chemical, and one is from an intermediate into agro segment. The new HAL series which I mentioned, all these will start in FY23. So the construction basically will begin in the next month.
And the margins in those portfolio will be ballpark the average margin of the company, or because it is in a starting phase, we will have a slightly lower margin and we will slowly ramp up the industry?
Absolutely. So whenever you start a business, you cannot anticipate such margins. The margins built up will happen over a period of time when process improvements happen, efficiencies improvement happen, capacities optimization will take place, premium customers come on board. So it's a 3-year process, but the revenues built up will start happening Q4 this year.
And these are all anisole based product, or this will be a different chemistry?
Some are anisole based, some are new products.
Got it. Great. Thanks for answering all my questions, and best wishes for the future quarters.
Thank you, Sangesh. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next question is from the line of Ashish Thakkar from Motilal Oswal Asset Management. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. So we did around 77% gross margins in FY21, and in the first quarter of this fiscal we are at around 71%. So although you said that majority of this inflation in the raw material cost was passed to the customer, so would this price hike be reflected in the next quarter? So what I mean to say is that does it come with a lag in your numbers?
It does come with a lag, but let me also tell you that raw material price is one parameter which you rightly pointed out. So say quarter 4, FY21, if you are comparing that, where the RMC was about 22, 23 odd %, which is currently at about 29 odd %. Okay? The second also impact was power and fuel cost. So I don't know if you are so the coal cost, which is our major raw material for our boilers for fuel, the prices have increased as high as 50%. Hence, if you see, even our power bill has increased from 6% to 8%. So we have been able to pass majority of our prices to customers, but some part also we are absorbing in these abnormal times. And of course, I would also like to highlight here that sea freight has been a nightmare for all manufacturing companies, and it is changing on weekly or bi-weekly basis, and it is very difficult for us now to predict these prices few months in advance. So if an order is booked, we still need to honor that, and hence there would still be a lag with the new prices coming in the future quarters.
Okay. So in this context, with the crude oil prices also going up, would you like to give some kind of guidance on where your gross margins would trend going forward?
I don't want to talk on guidance. I can only tell you, as crude increases, the benzene prices will increase, so will phenol prices increase, and in that tune, all the end product prices, be it myself, or be it Clean Science or any other competitor, will all have to increase price, and customer will also have to accept these increased price in account of such increasing raw material prices.
Okay, fair enough. So one question on this capacity utilization. So if I am not mistaken, today we are at 70%. And in the next 1 or 2 years, since we are adding a lot of capacities, where do you see your capacity utilizations in the next 12 to 18 months?
So see, what is happening is, in when you say 70%, in this some of our existing products are more than 80%. New product like we added DCC, as I mentioned in FY20, which goes into pharmaceutical, that was running below capacity utilization. Now as these capacities built up happen, in the existing plants, the capacity utilization will cross 70 odd %. As and when new lines keep adding, it depending on the market scenario, but of course these plants will not start on day one. It will happen gradually, and these capacities will again touch 50, 60, 70% over the next 1 year after we start production from these new lines.
Okay. So in this context, broadly, in a bucket of next 3 years, would you be having any kind of capex plan? So obviously we spelled it out for FY22, but in a bucket of next 3 years, you have anything in your mind?
Yes. In fact, we've taken a very large plot, which is about 17 odd acres, which is the biggest plot we have taken all this which we call as Unit 4. We are now trying for environment clearance, which I hope by December, January we should get environment clearance, and once that starts, there are ample of products which are lined up, which will go in our Unit 4 expansion. So there will be a lot of capex in FY23 as well, and even FY24 for that matter. I don't know the exact number, but could be, I mean, these capex will all be higher than whatever we have done so far. I can tell you that for sure.
Okay. And everything will be through internal accruals, right?
Everything will be through internal accruals. Everything should be with internal.
Okay. This is very helpful. Thank you so much and all the best.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you very much. The next question is from the line of Tushar Sarda from Athena Investments. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I had two questions. This is the first time that I'm attending a call with this company. Could you guide us on growth path for next 3 to 5 years? What kind of growth rate one should expect? What kind of margins, capex? Some broad idea on some longer term, mid to long term view.
I would want to avoid future statements here, but I can just tell you in a nutshell, you can imagine that we will be, apart from adding more capacities in our existing product, the company will enter into new product portfolios. Again, the application areas will still remain the same, which is performance chemical or intermediates for pharma and agro. But a multiple of these products will be lined up for the future expansions in the coming 3 to 5 years. And these are some of these processes which we have already developed are some products where we anticipate to be, the only producers in India and probably top 5 or top 6 producers globally of these products.
Okay. But in terms of growth rate, can we expect 20-30% growth over 3 to 5 year trajectory?
Pratik, you want to take?
Yeah, so just to chip in here, so sir, as you must have noticed, over last 4 to 5 years, we have witnessed a revenue CAGR of 30-odd% on back of annual capex in the range of 35 to 55 crores. FY21 we did a capex of 90 crore. FY22 also will be doing, as sir already mentioned, the capex in that range. So our capex is increasing and asset turn would also increase. So we are optimistic that the past growth trend which we have seen on the back of 35-55 crore capex, we would be able to surpass or probably at least sustain that growth rate.
Okay. My second question is, your EBITDA margins are one of the highest that I've seen in chemical companies, and you seem to, even for similar products, like MEHQ and all. So what is the secret for this? What is your reason and probably your R&D strength? So if you can elaborate a little bit on, how you are different from other companies in the same field.
So the major thing what is happening is that, as I mentioned, we are a company which focuses on innovating cleaner, eco-friendly catalytic processes. The processes of MEHQ which we have devised, we are the only company using this process till date. And the atom efficiency, if we are able to explain you, is where we are able to use minimum raw material to make these products, which is why our raw material cost is in these particular products are lower than our competitors which you mentioned. So in nutshell,
so where does this strength of doing this kind of innovative research come from? Do the company promoters have this strength, or is it the team? I wanted a little bit of insight on that.
So all the promoters, if you would have seen, are all technocrats and all have degrees in chemical. I particularly did my bachelor's from UD City, Bombay, and I did my master's in North America in synthetic organic chemistry, and I am responsible for R&D function in the organization.
So you are driving all this innovation in terms of catalysts.
Solid team of R&D working with me with a strength of about 42 odd people. So the ideas are discussed on twice a week types, and we are able to come up with cleaner processes. And the beauty is that since we have done all this since the inception of the company, so the passion for all of us is to come up with further better processes. And also, if you see our number, 35% of our revenues come out of China, and that gives us another level of passion that if we are able to come up with interesting process and make products in India and replace Chinese products wherever possible.
Wow, fantastic. Look forward to being an investor in the company and following you. I think this will be a very interesting story going forward.
Absolutely. We look forward to have you as our shareholders.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dhaval Shah from Girik Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello. Hi. So, as you mentioned, our strength lies in the catalyst and the process chemistry. So our products are sold at the same rate as our competitor would be selling it. And from a customer perspective, would we be the only supplier of your product because of a certain purity or a certain quality level, or you would be one of the supplier?
So let me answer your second question. I think it is a right of any purchaser to always have multiple suppliers, so that his lines do not get stuck if there is a problem with one particular supplier. So I personally believe that it is always good for a purchasing guy to have multiple suppliers. So we are one of the suppliers, but our focus remains that we have the maximum market or maximum wallet share of that particular customer. So for instance, in some of our products, for instance, say MEHQ, we have a global market of about 50-55% odd. So we try that in customers like that, we have about 55% of their wallet share, and which we would want to increase to 60-62% going forward. So that is to answer that. On quality, I would want to say that it is not that our quality is better than our competitor or there is better than mine, because the product are on B2B sales. They come with a spec sheet, and we all have to adhere to this particular spec sheet and the applications. Of course, what remains is, since we have multiple lines and multiple units, the customer gets a very high confidence that if one particular line is down, Clean Science still has ability to supply from another unit, another line. So we give that confidence to the customer that there will never be disruption in our supplies, and this is one of the reasons that our customers have been with us for the past 10 years.
Okay. So this leads to the next question that the rate of price pass on, and the phenol prices were up so much, and the other RM is also up, and still you are able to broadly maintain the margins. So is it that the product in the end market is gets priced is more like a commodity with the prices going up and down? But since you know the game best in terms of the production process, you are able to make such large margins. Like how we see PVC prices changing on a weekly basis and a couple of other commodity prices changing on a weekly basis. So does your end product fall in that category?
If we would have fallen in those categories, our margins will also be of those categories. So we are a specialty chemical, meaning we take our raw material or commodity chemicals like phenol, but we transform them into specialized chemicals. So for instance, this MEHQ is only globally produced by 2 or 3 companies globally. So the technology, the quality needed is not easy to be produced by any bulk producer.
So your high market share gives you the flexibility of passing mostly on an immediate basis, basically.
And because our raw material costing is 30%, but the other producers of MEHQ do not operate at such margins. They are anyways looking at, or their raw material costing could be 70%. So when there is a steep increase in price of raw material, it is for them to go to the customer first to ask for a price increase rather than me going to the customer and asking for an increase.
So for him, the delta would be much higher.
So they have to increase the price, or they have to go to the customer to increase the price, because their margins gets wiped out. And in that whole process, I am able to anyways get the benefit of price increase.
True. And the third will be in terms of the looking at a 3-year scenario in terms of the margin guidance. So what gives you the confidence about maintaining this margins over a longer period of time?
See, it is very simple. I'll tell you. I mean, if you look at our past historic data, over the past few years, the margins have steadily increased. This has been on account of increasing our efficiencies, product yields, and for me to reduce margin is only possible if my competitors comes and cut down the prices of finished product. But as I mentioned earlier as well, that I do not see a reason why my competitor, who are anyways operating on wafer thin margins, would come and drop the prices, and hence I think these margins should be sustainable.
So your new launches would also be in the same vertical, or you will be completely venturing out in a different product category or a chemistry, and still confident of maintaining the margin?
See boss, it is very simple. If I look for only product with 50% margin, then I cannot do anything and only make these products.
Yes.
Again, when we started this business in the year 2007-8, the margins were not these. The margins were meager 20-25% like any regular specialty chemical company.
Yes.
The margins built up happen over the period as you improve your yield, as you build up capacities, as you get better market share and you get premium customers on board. So if you feel that, as you can imagine, if you are an investor in a chemical company, these margins are unbelievable.
Yes.
And these margins will always come over the period of time. But what you should look at us is whether we have ability to come up with newer product portfolio, come up with interesting technologies, that over the period these will replicate what we have been doing over the past 12, 13 odd years.
Got it. Yeah, of course. That always shows up in the way you have ramped up, and one of the European client also asked for the tech transfer, which you refused. So
absolutely.
And you said the capex will be higher than what you have done. So you mean to say you did 90 crore in FY22? You will be spending. So you'll be spending higher than that, or you meant some cumulative years capex will be higher than, like FY23-24 will be higher than the cumulative years capex?
See, capex कब होता है? When you have products in your R&D.
Yes.
Okay. R&D होगा, pilot हुआ होता है, then only there is a capex plan made to make those products. Fortunately for us, we have several products going forward, and hence looking at that, I am able to very confidently say that the capex over the next 3 years will be quite high.
Okay.
Because we have a lot of pipeline of products in our R&D which will see the light of production as soon as we get this new unit cleared from government, and once we are able to start construction on that side.
Got it. Great. Nice talking to you, and wish you good luck.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ashish Shah from Polymer Capital. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity. I have only one question, which is slightly long, so just expect some patience. Sir, how should we think about phenol pricing impact on the margins? What I'm trying to understand is the impact of higher phenol prices on the product cost curve, starting with MEHQ. So, considering that the competition uses a more inefficient phenol-anisole process and are sitting higher on the cost curve, and will have to increase the price much higher to sustain when the phenol prices increases, does it indirectly help us in our margins? So does a higher phenol price in fact impact us positively over a longer period of time? Is that the right way to think?
I'll let Pratik take this.
Yeah. So here the fundamental difference is the starting point. So not all the competitors are not.
Sorry to interrupt you. Sir, may I request you to speak a little louder?
Hello. Yeah, is it better now?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
The fundamental difference is the starting point. So not all the competitors or players operating in this market start from phenol as a starting material. So some other players might be starting with some different raw material. The cost of that raw material might be fundamentally higher from the phenol as a starting material. That is first. Second is, when we say phenol is one of a bulk raw material, so phenol takes around 40% of our raw material costing. So effectively it takes around 12% of sales. And what that implies is, even if the phenol prices go up by 50%, by mathematically it should have not more than 5 or 6% impact on my margin. So these two reasons taken together help us stand out when it comes to margin profile.
So, sir, what I'm trying to understand is, we use, say, to make a NEHQ, as you answered in the previous question, we use, say, a 30 to 40% phenol, while the competition uses 70% phenol. A higher phenol use would mean that their cost increases.
So sorry, you're not audible.
Much higher than.
Hello.
Is it better? Is it better?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to understand is that in NEHQ, we use 30% phenol versus a competition using, say, a 70% phenol. What it means is that when the phenol prices goes up, the cost of production for the competition goes up materially versus our cost of production. As a result, when they will have to take price increase, as you highlighted, and which would positively impact us in the longer run. Is that the right way to think, or this is not the right way to think?
Could be a right way to think, but let me put it this way. It does not mean that if my competitor has made the price, say, $11, that I go and to the customer and again increase my prices to their level. I try to prove to my customer that, boss, we are a very consistent player. You look at us as a long-term partner. So we do not want to increase what my competitor is always increasing up to. Because today, if I am at 50% market share and if I want to grow this wallet share to 65%, there is only one thing I need to earn is confidence of my purchase guy that, boss, despite of things going or his competitor offering any price, Clean Science is still able or a very consistent player and not just increasing prices abruptly because the competitor is doing that. Okay? So that is greed versus satisfaction, and I think we believe in being satisfied in what we have and not want to just increase the margins just because my competition is doing so. I hope I am able to answer you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, got it. So in that case, just a small follow-up. In that case, sir, a higher phenol price would then, indirectly help us on the top line, if not on the margins. But, what I'm trying to understand is higher phenol prices eventually helps us generating higher EBITDA, if not higher margins.
So higher...
Or that's not the right way.
No, so it's not like the higher crude oil prices will benefit me perennially. I mean, we'll have a benefit to start with, but eventually it's market demand supply. So then the spread also gets adjusted across the players.
Okay.
So it will not be that always an inflationary environment and it continues and I'll keep on getting the margin benefit. So somewhere theoretically it has to end. I mean, the spread will get adjusted for all the players. But again, we'll have a higher spread compared to my competitors because of the process differentiation.
But in your case, the way you are speaking, it also means that when the oil prices decline and where phenol comes back to 70 rupee, my margins will squeeze down.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to understand. Yes.
No, that is not what it happens, because if you see last financial year, phenol was at about $1,000 per ton, which is about 1,700 or 1,600 today. But that does not mean, because in specialized businesses, the prices do not increase proportionately to your raw material, nor do they decrease proportionally to your raw material. So if raw material has increased by 50%, I cannot go to the customer and ask for 25% increase, and vice versa. When the price goes down by 50%, they do not come back to me to reduce by 25%.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough. So this gives so basically then this helps us.
Ashish, I'll request you to come back in the question queue for a follow-up question. Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sujit Lodha from Birla Sun Life. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thanks for taking my question. Sir, just a few things on the capex which you announced. So this capex is the timeline of it being operational. So obviously, without getting into much detail on which are the products, etc. But the capex, when you say 90 to 100 crores, typically when would they come on stream? I mean, what would be the period when they'll come on stream, these products?
So some of the lines will come on stream in Q4 this year, and some of the lines will come second half FY23.
Okay. So typically 12 to 18 months is the period to...
So the capex which we would have done by March, all those lines will start by July, August next year.
Okay. Okay. Sir, and recently, the second question would be, sir, recently we've seen the anisole prices have not actually risen so much in line with the other commodity prices. So what are your thoughts there? I mean, do you expect any inflation from anisole prices going up?
So see, anisole is basically based out of phenol. So if phenol goes up, anisole also goes up. But as I was explaining Ashish ji earlier too, that these commodity chemicals and these specialized chemicals has a difference. That is, commodity chemicals go very high. It does not mean that specialized also will rise to that percentage of difference.
Okay.
Okay.
So was there any specific dynamics related to anisole which kept the price subdued? I mean, was there any significant impact on the demand which led to lower price or subdued pricing in anisole, or it was just related to phenol prices?
No, anisole is related to phenol, but maybe some of the contracts, if you would have seen, if the contracts were made in the earlier quarter, then there is always a lag in getting these price increase. So maybe in the next 2 quarters, you will see the prices of anisole also going up.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. If I have anything else, I will come back on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Alisha Mahalwa from Envision Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Good evening, and thank you for taking my question. While most of the questions have been answered, I just needed one clarification.
Alisha, if I may request you to speak a little louder.
Sure. I hope I'm audible now.
Little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to understand the 30% odd YOY growth that we've witnessed in this quarter. Can you break this up into volume growth and value growth? How much is because of volume and how much is because of increase in prices?
Okay, now, in terms of, let me check. Okay, do I have it? Yes.
On YOY basis, the growth is primarily volume driven rather than realization driven, except for Formax, where we saw a degrowth. We are not comfortable sharing segment-wise volumes, but yeah, I mean the key takeaway on YOY basis, the growth is more of a volume driven rather than realization driven.
That's helpful. Thank you, sir. My other questions have been answered.
Thank you so much, Anish.
Thank you very much. The next question is from the line of Ranjit Siromala from B&K Securities. Please go ahead.
Thanks for taking a question. Congratulations on the result.
Ranjit, you're not audible.
Yeah, is this better?
Much better.
Yeah, so getting on to the segmental performance, you did share a bit of more details on a YOY basis. It would be helpful if you could also share it on a sequential basis. The contribution from performance, pharma and FMCG in the 4Q. And the second question would be, is there any seasonality in our business with regards to the quarterly performance? Is it way the second half would be heavier than the first half, or any anomalies in the quarterly performance? That would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. So Q4, performance chemical contributed around 68% to the top line, pharma 19% and FMCG 11%. On QOQ basis, because the raw material prices have witnessed a steep increase, so there have been a benefit of realizations also. So realizations improved for performance chemicals, also for pharma chemicals, but for FMCG chemicals, as we have already highlighted, there was a low volume offtake, so there we did not witness a higher growth. And the revenue growth or the revenue is not seasonal, so it's not that H2 will be better than H1 on a steady state basis. But this year, because we are undertaking a large capex, last year also we undertook a large capex, which we are expected to go online by H2 of this financial year. So we estimate that the H2 would be much better than H1.
Thank you, sir. And my last question would be on the capex front. Since you have alluded that going forward the capex would be the highest probably that you have taken in the history of the company. Is there any inclination of setting up any subsidiary company to avail the tax benefits that we have, since we are also getting into new products and it's going to be a greenfield capex?
No, there is no such plan. Everything will be under Clean Science and Technology Limited. And of course, after the IPO, the visibility which the company has received, I mean, we would want to harness on this and get all the newer product portfolios under this company name only.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Saurabh from Asian Market Securities. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. So my first question is, you can give more color in terms of market size of the new products that will come in this Q4 and next year?
So in Q4 or next year, we are trying to enlarge capacities of our existing businesses only, or existing product lines only. The newer products which will start in second half of next year would be the ones which will go into performance chemical, where the market is closer to $1 billion and growing at about 10 to 12% CAGR.
Okay. And sir, how should we look at in terms of asset turnover for this 110 crore capex and even for the next year capex, whatever you will do?
Typically, we are at an asset turn of about 2.7-ish, and I think it should be closer to that levels only.
Okay. And sir, in terms of new products that will be developed, so are those newer products also based on internally developed catalysts, or how should we look at? Okay.
Absolutely. These are all developed in-house, but different catalytic processes are used to develop these new molecules. New processes for existing products.
And what would be the end market? Will it be the pharma or some other market?
Three segments we like: performance chemicals, so these are stabilizers or inhibitors or additives, and then intermediates for pharma and agro.
Okay. And so if you can give some color in terms of number of products which are in our R&D stage?
So there are big segments of products which we are working on R&D. So we have a team which is already working on a performance chemical, where I mentioned the market is about $1 billion. Other segments are working on intermediates into pharma and agrochemicals, which are also large products coming into Indian markets. So I think there is a lot of potential going forward. Rather than giving you granular numbers, I think overall view remains quite optimistic.
Okay. And so this the product in the performance chemical, the 1 million market size. So how is the timeline in terms of customer approvals from whether it's a short term, within 3 or 6 months you will get approval, or it will be a slightly longer cycle?
So it depends on customer to customer. Price sensitive customers, it's very simple. Approval is directly proportional to price sensitive customers. So people who are absolutely price sensitive, the approval time are very short. And customers who are high paying customers but are looking at a long term sustainable solutions, sustainable manufacturers, there the lead time of approvals could be longer. So short time when I mean could be 1 month, and long time could be 6 months.
Okay. Thank you for your response.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Participants, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Anand, individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
I just have 2 questions, very general questions. Compared to our production capability in fiscal year 21, and keeping in mind of the 2 new factories that are coming up in another 1 to 2 years' time, what will be the total increase in the overall production capacity of the company? Is it going to double or triple, like that? Very rough numbers.
So, our gross fixed asset for the year close by is in the range of 224 to 230 odd crores. So we foresee, the capex which we have done in the proportionate way, broadly the capacity should increase, because the entire capex is going towards operating assets. We don't want to give a volume specific number, so I'm just trying to give you a directional view.
Yeah, okay, understood. And my second and last question is, are we only looking at organic growth, or are we also looking at any acquisitions in the future?
So we are right now, there is a lot of opportunities in our organic space. Of course, we will always be open for an inorganic acquisition, but there are certain parameters which we have in mind, and until all are fulfilled, we would not want to enter into any inorganic acquisition.
Okay, great, sir. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dhruv from HDFC Asset Management. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. So one quick question is on the freight cost. On a basket basis, what would be freight cost as a total, basket, as a percentage probably? And do we sell on CIF or FOB basis? And related, given the prices are so high and so uncertain, on a temporary basis, can it have some risk in terms of supply chain rebalancing, customers looking to, optimize some cost, probably some purchasing probably from some nearby sources or something like that?
So Dhruv, the question, the split up, I think Prateek will answer, but I can only tell you that the freight we supply on CIF basis. No customers, very rarely people like on FOB basis. So it's all CIF basis business. These are all full container businesses. So what is happening is, this is one of the very odd year I have seen over the last 14 years of my working career, where shipping freight prices have been increasing on weekly, bi-weekly basis. So going forward, what is happening is we are also changing our prices to customers as and when the freight cost is increasing. So up to a particular percentage increase, we are able to absorb, but beyond that, the customer is willing to share with us. And for split up, let me ask Prateek to answer that.
So freight cost, we have recorded a freight cost of around 14 million this quarter. And last year, same quarter, we recorded a freight cost of around 8 odd million.
Okay, so it's fairly, and this the outward freight is recorded in the freight cost, right? That is not deducted from sales.
No. So it's recorded in other expense.
So it's fairly small. So even if the pricing, got it, perfect. Thank you so much.
Sales has only volume and realization. That's it.
Yeah, got it. Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dhruv. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Krishna Parwani from JM Financial. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good evening, Siddharth and Prateek ji.
Good evening.
Congrats on a good set of numbers. I had just one question. So for this new product, Veratrol, would you be starting from catechol or phenol?
No, we'll be starting from guaiacol. There is no technology from phenol, but yes, we will be starting from guaiacol to make Veratrol.
Okay,
because
perfect.
Guaiacol is captively available with us.
Okay, got it. That's helpful, sir. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Participants, you may press star and 1 to ask the question. Next question is from the line of Devaraju, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity, and congratulations for the good numbers. I would just want to ask about on the expenditure side. On the quarter-on-quarter basis, I have seen that the other expenses part in the balance in the profit and loss account has been increasing quarter-on-quarter basis. Could you please throw some light on the detailed expenditure that is being grouped in the other expenditure?
Yeah. So other expenses on YOY basis have increased for a couple of reasons. First is power and fuel cost. So we have witnessed around 70% increase in power and fuel cost. And the second is repair and maintenance, where we have witnessed around 22% growth increase. So these are the big two ticket items in the other expense which have led to an increase on YOY basis.
Sir, my second question is on the sales related. The operating income is derived mostly from 70% is derived from one particular segment. So will there be a diversification in the future?
Yes, progressively it will be. It's a segment, but that segment also, as you would appreciate, has a 3 products in it: MEHQ, BH, and ascorbyl palmitate. The endeavor is, as we progress, the basket becomes more diversified.
Thanks for the opportunity and congratulations once again.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Gaurav Shah from Kotak Wealth. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Fantastic results. Just wanted to check few things in terms of what would be the average debtor days of the funds, and what percentage of the cash from operations we convert into free cash flow. So what is the conversion of free cash flow from operations to free cash flows?
Yeah. So the receivable days is in the range of 35 to 40 days. And the cash conversion cycle is fairly healthy. I mean, our net working capital days is close to 30 to 40 days. So except for that, the EBITDA is converted into cash. And that's why you see a cash balance of close to 30 odd crore on book.
Thanks so much. Thanks.
Thank you. Next question is from the line of Ravi, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, Ravi, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So, as you yourself said that these are quite unbelievable margins, right? You have been doing a great job. So, can we expect that there is still scope in, let's say, further expansion in these margins in the future, purely based on your process innovation, irrespective of the raw material prices? Or we are at peak right now?
We lost you a little bit.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, is there further scope for margin expansion in future, or are these the peak margins? Purely from process innovation basis.
It would be really killing a customer to ask for more margins. I think these are peak margins already. So okay. I don't think I should expect more than this.
Right. And these we are talking for existing products. And as you said, for new products, the margins will evolve with time.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Participants, please stay connected. The line for the management got disconnected. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. We have the line for the management reconnected to the call. The next question is from the line of Vivek Gautam from GS Investment. Please go ahead.
Sir, I just want to know what is the expected CAGR for us, our top and bottom line for the next 2-3 years, and what is the opportunity size for each of our verticals, sir? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. But we don't want to put a number at this stage. But yeah, we are optimistic, and our optimism is underpinned by the capex which we are undertaking.
So 10 to 15 range, or at least that we can achieve, sir?
Yeah, I mean, at least yes. But I mean, we're trying to put a number there, but we don't want to put a number. But yes, the number which you have put is The guidance number, yeah, that's the number which you have put. We would the endeavor is much higher than that.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. It's not a clear. Hi, Ankur.
Yeah, Siddharth. Nirav, you're there?
I think we've lost him.
Yeah, sir. This is okay, sir. Thanks a lot. Even on the opportunity side, if you can tell something, sir.
So on opportunity. On?
Opportunity size.
Oh.
For each of our verticals, sir.
I mentioned, so in performance chemical, we have highlighted a space where the market is about $1 billion. Very few producers globally, no one in India. So that is one very interesting space. And in pharma and agro, of course, these are products, between 50 to $200 million. But there are multiple products in these space. And some of them are not even made in India.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next question is from the line of Ashish Singh, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Good evening, sir. Most of the queries has been answered. Just one is left. I see 37% of our revenue comes from China. And considering the current situation of India and China, is there any plan to mitigate such situation which may arise in future?
So, sir, China has been a very extremely important customer for us. And, we keep hearing this, but, India is more dependent for intermediates from China rather than China being dependent on us. So, we have been hearing it, but the businesses between India and China on trade basis so far has been absolutely normal. And I expect the same to be going on because all the main pharmaceuticals which are made in India are totally dependent on Chinese imports.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question is from the line of Manish Poddar from Nippon India AF. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. I have just one question. So, probably could you outlay what is the capex outlay for the next 3 years? And let's say, is there a dividend policy which the company has?
The dividend policy, as we have mentioned in our DRHP as well, which is about 15% minimum, and we have been a dividend-paying company since 2012.
And how about the capex outlay? Let's say, or the other way around, how much per capacity would be, let's say, fresh capacity plant would be environmentally approved?
So Unit 4 is pending EC. Unit 3 is, the one plant is already commissioned during this quarter.
And is there a cumulative outlay which is there, let's say, for the next, let's say, 3 years together?
Sorry, we couldn't catch that. Can you come again?
So I'm just trying to understand, let's say, in terms of capex outlay for the next 3 years, if you could probably spell that out.
Yeah, this year, last year, the capex which we did, it could be in that range. We don't want to put a number at this stage.
Okay, thank you.
Assure you that in this financial year, we will be doing a capex of 100 odd crores. And going forward also, it will be in similar or more only. But there will be no reduction because of the number of products we already have in pipeline. I feel there will be a substantial amount of capex and all would be mostly done through internal accruals.
Okay, because why I'm trying to understand is because you will have a significant amount of cash flow. So if 15% is the dividend policy, do you intend to probably acquire some company or what is the plan with the remaining cash on books?
We would always want to have a 1 year profit in the company because of any unusual times which we have seen in COVID or any such year. So we always, as a prudent policy, always want to maintain good cash in the books of the company.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that will be the last question for today. I will now hand the conference over to Mr. Ankur Periwal for closing comments.
Yeah, hi. Thank you everyone for participating into the call. Siddharth, Prateek, will you like to add any closing remarks?
I think, again, I would want to thank all the investors for taking time out in the late evening to hear us and to study about the company, and I look forward to a long-term association with all the shareholders and investors and stakeholders going forward. Thank you so much. Have a good week. Have a good evening, all of you.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Axis Capital Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us. You may now disconnect your lines. Thank you so much.